And today I have a fantastic guest, Aaron Keith. Aaron is my coach, somebody I've been working with now for almost 6 months. Is that right, Aaron? We're almost
Yeah,
on
about
six
that.
month, right? And Aaron is, he owns Buildify. He is a coach to companies, CEOs. He coaches real estate agents, but not just real estate agents, the top real estate agents. And I just really, really enjoy coaching with him because he has such a tactical mind. It's about strategy, and yet there's a mindset element. There's I don't know, it just helps. I think what you help me do, Aaron, is kind of uncover maybe my dreams, my goals, my desires, things like that. And so, I just want to say that coaching is just, I think, so important. And we see throughout every segment of the world, whether it's sports, business, whatever, nutrition, health, people use coaches.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Like, why do you think that coaching is important?
Oh man, listen, I drink my own Kool-Aid. I hired my first business coach when I was 21 years old. I'm about to turn 47 tomorrow. So I've had a coach for pretty much my entire adult life. Listen, if you want to get good at something, why not hire someone who knows how to get you there faster? So you're not having to learn by trial and error. Find someone who knows a path. It gets you there quicker. There's less bumps and bruises. And to be honest, how amazing is it to have someone who's in your corner, who their focus is to have you perform at your best and really reach your potential? I mean, that's just an amazing experience to have someone in your corner who will tell it to you straight, who will tell you the things that no one else is going to tell you, and who's your absolute champion. I mean, that's just an amazing experience to have in life.
When you started coaching, I'm sure that it's been good, it's been bad, it's been average,
Oh, yeah.
and I mean, talk to me about how to get the most out of your coach.
To get the most out of your coach, it's an interesting conversation, right? Because not all coaches are created equal. And over my own career, I've had several different coaches that have been with me. My current coach has been with me for 17 years. Prior to that, I had some for 10 years, 8 years. And your coach isn't going to necessarily be with you, or your consultant won't be with you for your whole career. Find someone who meets you where you are now and knows exactly how to get you to where you want to be. That is absolutely critical. You have to find someone that you also vibe with. There's so many coaches and consultants out there. Interview everybody, interview lots of people. Find someone that you not only vibe with, but has the actual track record and experience to get you to exactly where you want to be. At many times in my career, my first person was a phenomenal business coach, phenomenal. And then I moved on to another business consultant, and I was making good money and I was growing a great business. But the problem was I was spending all my money. So I hired a finance coach. So you have to find coaches and consultants at each stage of your evolution that can meet you where you are.
I love that. I love that. And as someone that's being coached, how should how should you come to your coaching appointment, and how can you prepare for your coaching appointment? And what do you I have this belief system, Aaron, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but if I come to the coaching appointment with you and I'm waiting for you to tell me how to live my life, I don't think much is going to come out of it.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to tell me? I mean, it's like, so a lot of it has to do for what I bring to the table. What would
Oh my gosh, it really
what would
does.
you recommend to people in that situation?
I mean, with this question, it's really interesting, right? The client will have a viewpoint of what matters to them, what they're focused on, what's important to them. But also on the other side of the coin, the consultant needs to have the same thing. Sorry, we're having work done at the house.
I was going to say, is somebody breaking into your house? That's really funny.
we'll just do that real quick. Make him go away.
There you go.
So when you're dealing with this, right, the client's going to have what they think they need to bring to the conversation, but the consultant, the coach, should also be bringing to them, this is what we see on the outside. That relationship between what the client is wanting, what the consultant or coach is also seeing, that marriage is powerful. Yeah. Absolutely powerful.
Does it change when you're coaching a company or a CEO or a real estate agent or, and talk a little bit about your different, not your clients in specifically, but how you work with them?
How we work with them? It's interesting. It's really two pieces. There's the mindset, right? Because as a business owner, as a professional, there's a mental component, an emotional component that goes into our performance and how we're performing in our company. Then there's the systems, the structures, and the processes, right? The actual tangible workability of a business. So my approach is generally to marry those two, because sometimes a CEO needs help with leadership, communication. None of us were taught how to lead people. None of us were taught how to manage hundreds of employees or even 2 employees. And so unless you have someone who can help teach you how to navigate those waters, it's just trial and error.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree with that. So we have some fun topics to get into today, and we're going to dive into them. So I'm really excited to do this. So let's start with the first one, which is mental habits for resilience. What daily mental habit do top performing agents, business owners do to stay resilient during, I don't know, market slumps, for example, is probably,
Oh, man.
even when it's really crazy and busy. I suppose you have to have mental habits for both.
Oh, you do. Absolutely. I mean, listen, I would say there's 2 things I can think of right off the bat that I think are absolutely foundational. One is a morning routine. Listen, we've all heard about morning routines from Tony Robbins and other amazing leaders out there. Find a morning routine that works for you. To be very direct and honest, I don't have a lot of time. I have a very, very crammed calendar. And so my morning routine is 15, 20 minutes because that's what I can commit to with integrity. I wish I had an hour, right? I wish I had a half hour. That'd be nice. But a morning routine is something that you have to tell the truth. What can you honestly stick to over time with integrity? For me, that's 15 or 20 minutes. That morning routine gets the mind right. I get to review my goals, business, goals on personal, my retirement plan, my budget, the things in my life that matter to me that I'm focused on and working on. So that morning routine is I think, just foundational for all entrepreneurs and business owners. And then a portion of that, like a piece of that, right, is our why. And again, for those of you who know me who are listening, I'm a very straight shooter and pretty blunt and to the point. Building a business is freaking hard. There's times that you're gonna be in tears. There's gonna be times you're gonna want to throw the stapler. There's gonna be times you're gonna be doing backflips with joy because you closed a huge deal. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart, right? That thing that pulls you through the tough times is your why. What's your why? When someone gets clear on their why and they keep that in front of them through their morning routine and just throughout the week, when things get tough, when things get dark, when the market changes, and you're in the thick of it, that why is what pulls you through. It's your guiding North Star that keeps the fire going, keeps it burning, and keeps you on rails. So I think knowing your why, having a great morning routine is paramount.
What when people do spiral, because I'm sure a lot of your coaching clients may even be spiraling right now with
Yeah.
the bumpiness in the economy, the market, everything that's kind of going on. It's a little nutty out there. I mean, I
It's
can't say
challenging.
it's not bad, it's not good. It's just like, what is it? We're probably all asking each other.
Yeah.
What are the I'm not going to say tricks and hacks. What are the strategies for managing between your ears?
Oof, managing between your ears. I think having someone you can talk to clear the air, right? Because it's dangerous in here, right? Being stuck up here can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Having a therapist, a coach, a life coach, life or business coach, both even, having a confidant, a mentor that you can tell the truth to is so important.
Yeah.
So important. That's what helps get this stuff out so you can get back on track.
Yeah, it makes me realize that life is a team sport. It's not
You can't do it
solo
alone.
operation. You really can't. You really can't. Um, let's talk about growth. What are some of the mistakes people make regarding growth, and how can we avoid these mistakes?
With growth, I think there's a lot of facets to this conversation depending on where you want to take it. I think with growth, one of the pitfalls I see is people have these large aspirations, these large goals, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's good. That's positive. But there's a disconnect between this is my aspiration and goal and this is where I am. They don't have an actual plan. There's no real, tangible, actual business plan that's going to get them to said goal.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they're also not doing the reflection. What do I need to learn? Who do I have to become to be a match to that goal, to that level?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of what gets discussed, not only with my own coach, but with my clients. Because we're all not enough in this moment to hit that goal. That's why it's a goal. It's a stretch. We have to grow and develop ourselves to get up there.
That's interesting because that's true. No doubt about it. You have to become, like, it was so funny. I was, before I found Carrie, my wife, I realized that to find a woman like that, to marry a woman like that, I had to become that person first.
Same. I mean, listen, that's literally what my coach worked on with me for years. I got engaged later in life. I'm like I said, I'm turning 47 tomorrow. We got engaged, 2 years ago, and we met later in life. It took me a long time to get my stuff together to be a match to that kind of a woman.
Me too. You and I haven't gone into a lot of detail about our past. We probably should, because I think there's a lot of similarities in that. I maybe that's why I relate to you so much, Aaron, and why I like coaching with you, because I don't know. I feel we have a lot. I mean, we're definitely different, no question, but we have a lot of similarities too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You have a better six pack than I do. So that's where we're different.
I gotta make sure I don't lose it. Well, that's very funny. So becoming that person to reach that goal, to become that, to hit those goals, what should we be looking at in ourselves?
Very good question.
To improve upon, I should say. Are there certain areas?
There is.
Do you break it down into categories and then try to work on that? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can do that. Let's see. Let's pull this apart and see what we have. So
Okay.
if I'm looking at whether myself or a client to hit a goal, and I'm trying to see what the disconnect is, like where are the growth points, right? Where are the growth points? One of the things I'm looking at is knowledge and information. Where do I need to gain more knowledge and information? So as a business owner, one place to look is marketing, right? Do I have enough knowledge and information on how to market at the level that's going to take me here? Okay, next, finances. Y'all want to make a bunch of money? Who here, be honest, who here has been trained in entrepreneurial finance? Not accounting, not what school's going to teach you to be a CPA, but what do you actually know about entrepreneurial cash management? Hardly any of us were trained in that. So most of us, we don't have the financial IQ to get up here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So marketing, finance, and then systems, structures, and processes. So operations. What do you know about operations?
Yeah.
So I would look at the main areas of a business and ask myself, do I have the knowledge, skill, awareness to build a company the size I want? If not, I'm going to either go start reading books, find a consultant, do both.
Right.
So that I gain that knowledge, right? So that's the logical part, right? That's the information part.
Right.
On the human performance, right? Our way of being, how we show up, we have to start to look and be really truthful about our shortcomings. Mm-hmm. We all have stuff. We all have limiting beliefs. We're human. That's normal, right? Mm-hmm. What are our limiting beliefs around success, around money, around leadership? We all have a bunch of gobbledygook up there in our brain about that stuff. And if that's not getting sorted out and cleared out through a therapist, EMDR, hypnotherapy, or with a coach or a consultant, it's stuck up there and it's getting in your way. So I think looking at the belief systems and the systems.
Do you work with your clients to?
Oh, absolutely. It's a big part of what we do.
Get unstuck on those things?
It's very possible, yeah.
That's great. So scaling. you talked about that, about operationally. Like I know for a fact that when we founded Telus Properties and we opened in Beverly Hills, we opened in, you can keep that same topic, by the way, Sonny, becoming your best self. It's okay. Um, uh, we became, got up to 3 offices. We had Beverly Hills, we had Brentwood, and we had Newport Beach. Those were our first 3 offices. I was the broker of record. I was operations. I was president, and I hit the Peter principle, man. I was falling apart at the seams as an operator. I was even falling apart at the seams as a broker, having difficulty keeping up on top of all that, and then still being the president and doing what I do.
It's a lot.
I realized, well, it's not that it's a lot, but to your point, you have to know your limitations and what you're good at. And I realized that I wasn't an operator because I would get, like, if you have to go from A to Z and you can't skip any of the letters, and I'm only on D and I'm already bored or I'm distracted or I mean, the other thing I noticed too is that I was too much of a micromanager, and I wouldn't delegate and let people do their thing because I could do it better.
Right.
You know, and like we hear that a lot. So I think that scalability is one of the, I mean, I had to let go and bring someone else in. I had to put up the white flag and surrender that that's not me, which is hard.
It's very hard.
And yet to scale, a coach can be so helpful, I think, in helping agents, CEOs, business owners recognize that.
It is. Let me speak to that point a little bit. You're spot on the money. A lot of real estate agents, because I know we have a lot of agents listening to this specific podcast, with a lot of real estate agents, they are visionaries, right? Most entrepreneurs, put agents aside, most business owners, most entrepreneurs, we are visionaries. We have a vision and we can see it, we can crystallize it. But when it comes to implementation, like the nitty gritty in the weeds, many are not so great. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a clear distinction in business between an integrator and a visionary. So if you're someone who's really strong in visionary and you're realizing that your implementation is not amazing, get an assistant. It's one of, hands down, it's a game-changing investment into your business. Hire an assistant who's a phenomenal integrator, who can take what you give them weekly, monthly, organize it, and just go chop through it. Game changer.
Becoming your best self, then, really, Aaron, is, if I'm reading this correctly or listening properly, is understanding your strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
And a coach
Very much so.
A coach can really help you see that, I think.
Yeah.
And so many people, I think, hang on if they're not let's say they're not a visionary. They keep trying to be. Or if they're not a great operator, they keep trying to be.
Yeah.
Instead of finding the help and delegating to it. So that
there is a caveat here, though. I don't want to step over this. When you're a small business owner, right? You know, you only have so much money and funds available, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, you're in the scrappy phase of your career, and you don't have the money necessarily to hire an operations or a marketing person yet. And it is you are the visionary, but you have to be the integrator for a while until you make enough money. That's real. That's true. This is why you have to have discipline. We've talked about mindset. Discipline is one of those things that I can meet someone for a couple minutes and I'll tell you how successful they're going to be based on how disciplined they're willing to be.
Interesting.
Because that discipline pushes you through the uncomfortableness. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I don't feel like doing this. Discipline pushes through. And that discipline will get you to where you're making enough money where you can afford to hire all the help. But that's what has people at the beginning stages either make it or don't make it. Discipline is one of the number one belief systems. If you can cultivate that for yourself, which we all can, you will be successful.
Let's just break that down just for a second. So
Sure.
it brings up 2 points for me. When you're a scrappy startup and businesses are, and I think probably why real estate agents are part of your clients is because they're startups, they're businesses. I don't know if they realize it, but they are. How, I mean, if you're that undercapitalized, how do you make it work, especially in the competitiveness of today's market?
It's tough. It's very, very tough, Peter.
I mean,
Yeah.
what do you see agents break through and make it when they're that undercapitalized? They don't have money to market. They don't have money to advertise. They're going, from check to check. They don't.
It's a really tough thing. Again, real estate is not an easy business, right? Let's just be honest about that. Real estate is not for everybody. The people who I've seen that have honestly done the best are people that they have the grit to get out there and meet other people.
Mhm.
Because you don't need a ton of money to get a real estate business right off the ground. You need people. You need database size. So if you're willing to hustle and network, that is a great way to get a real estate business off the ground where it's making enough funds where you can start to do other things. I think, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers here on this comment, but I see a lot of young agents that are struggling and trying to get the real estate business off the ground. And really the only thing they're doing is social media.
Mhm.
Most people don't have enough social media followers to turn that into real money consistently to get a business off the ground. Down the road, sure. But initially, social media is absolutely not enough. You have to go out there in the world and meet people and grow a database.
Mhm.
I know teams that won't even bring on people onto their team unless they have a certain database size.
Mhm.
Because we all know from experience, your database equates to dollars. And if you can't cultivate enough people in a database, you're not going to make it in real estate.
That's so true. It's interesting. I was on a conversation yesterday, and I think so many times when we're coaching or doing podcasts or lectures or presentations on how to be a top agent, we always talk about the traits of a top producer.
Yeah.
But what we don't talk about sometimes are the traits of non-producers. And I think you got to look at both.
You do.
You have to know what not to do as much as you need to know what to do,
You
right?
do.
And one of those traits you mentioned is discipline. And a lot of non-producers are waiting for the motivation to become disciplined.
Yeah. You should coin that phrase.
Right? But
Oh,
but motivation
yes.
may or may not come.
Yeah.
Discipline is always there
Yeah.
if you tap into it.
We usually tell people that motivation's a booby prize. I don't really care if someone's motivated.
Yeah.
My coach has never asked me, am I motivated? I've never had a single business coach in a long time ever say, hey, are you motivated? Motivation doesn't matter. What matters is your word. You either gave your word to hit your sales goal or you didn't.
Right.
Motivation is not a sustainable feeling.
Yeah.
Motivation comes and goes. It's human behavior.
Yeah.
Again, I'd be so shocked. Has anyone on this call, including myself or you, has any of us been motivated for 3 consecutive hours, 5 consecutive hours? Motivation is something that happens in a moment and then it's gone.
Right. It's like going to that seminar, getting all jacked up.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a motivation
over.
person. I don't read motivational books. I don't know any to recommend. I believe, and if you study successful people in all aspects, athletes, entrepreneurs, you name it,
Right.
the consistent trait is they have a stick-withedness.
Yeah.
They can give their word to something.
Yeah.
And that their word means so much to them that they're willing to go through the highs and the lows, and that stick-withedness produces the result.
Yeah. They're not going to let others down or themselves down. They're going to make it happen no matter what. I love that. All right. So let's talk about breaking through glass ceilings. And I think that's a big one because either you're trying to get off the ground as a startup, or you're midway through your career and you just keep earning the same amount over and over and over again, and you're not getting to the next level. Um, or maybe you're really, really at the top of the game, but you're questioning. I mean, I was at this point. I'll never forget this. The reason I got into management, and you'll love this, is because I did 40 transactions in a year.
Okay.
And the thought of 50 was overwhelming. I was just like, I don't think I want to do that. I said, how can I get other people to do 50 each? And then I can do 300 through 6 people.
Yeah.
And that's how I thought about life.
Good.
So how do people break through these ceilings? And I'm imagining some of these ceilings are self-imposed mental ceilings, and some are actual, you just don't have systems and organization in place.
Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of answered the question right there. It's depending on what the ceiling is, we'd have to look at which ceiling. So we can look at some different ones if you want. But yeah, some of these are mental ceilings where it's just a lack of confidence. Some of these ceilings are a lack of information. Some of these ceilings are a lack of actual structure to get them there.
So, okay, mental. What are some of the mental ceilings you see from your people you coach?
A lot of them stem around money. When you boil it down, it comes down to money. People just don't feel worthy of it. They don't feel like they know how to manage it or handle it. Some of them will come down to confidence. They just aren't thinking big enough. And it still blows me away. I mean, I'm a student of the work just like you are. In my entrepreneur group, I'm around some very heavy hitters. And I may think of building, I used to own a medical clinic that I sold years ago. When I thought about building the medical clinic, I was just going to build one in San Diego, a big one. That was my vision, is build this big, huge, biggest clinic in California. I sold it to a friend in my CEO group. You know what he told me? Oh yeah, I want to take your clinic and use it as a model to build 250 clinics around the country, then roll it up and sell it. I'm like, wow, I don't think big at all.
Right.
And that's one of the things is a lot of people have a very narrow, small aperture in which they're looking at their business.
Right.
And that is very limiting in what's possible.
Right.
So that's what I see a lot on the mindset.
All right. So let's talk informational. Where do you see informational challenges? Like maybe they don't have enough information.
Oh, so much. Negotiating, speaking, just having, there's some books to read, Words That Work by Frank Lund, by Phil Jones. Never Split the Difference, which I'm sure most of you have heard of. Mm-hmm. Books that teach you how language affects the brain. I don't think people have put enough energy into really learning how to speak in such a way that they're powerful, they're influential in their interactions and conversations.
Interesting.
I think marketing and branding. I mean, oh my gosh, especially as a real estate professional, your whole world is around marketing and branding. You are in one of the most competitive industries, period, end of story. Like, who doesn't know 13 real estate agents right now? Mm-hmm. So understanding the nuance of what branding actually is, applying that knowledge to your business, then looking at marketing and knowing really what marketing is and applying a real honest to God marketing plan to a business. Mm-hmm. That's just mind blowing for people.
Yeah.
Statistics and information. I would say 97% of the real estate agents that I've advised over the last 20 plus years do not have a KPI dashboard, a key performance indicator dashboard. A dashboard does really two things. It tracks your goal versus your actual, so you can see your performance. Most people aren't tracking anything or very little in their business. So how are they going to manage their performance?
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. So information, right? And then the other one you said was scaling and to break income ceilings, right? To systems and organization.
Yeah, finance was one of those areas that a lot of people just aren't trained in. So 2 books to read in the financial world. These are great books, by the way. These are not boring. These are not going to put you to sleep. These are very entrepreneurial financial books. Read them in this order. First book I would read is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Profit First, very popular book. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. And then the next book you read after that is Simple Numbers, Straight Profits by Greg Crabtree. Again, very, very awesome book. Both of these books are going to teach you real, honest to God tools and techniques on how to run your finances, interact with your money. It's really going to expand your financial IQ.
Mm-hmm. Great. I love that.
Yeah, those are good ones.
All right. Now we're going to one of those topics that you actually started to dig into a little bit at the very beginning, which is reignite your why. And that particular one is particularly important to me because I'm really looking at my next 5 years. I'm trying to integrate my why into my next 5 years because I really want to maximize what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
You know, at work, in life, everything. It's really important to me. And that's kind of what you and I have been working on and kind of coaching towards. And so let's talk about that a little bit. Like, how do you, first of all, pull out a good why? And how do you kind of always maybe get your client to refocus on the why and maybe to, I don't know, somehow use that why to break it down to activities and goals and things like that?
Yeah, you laid it out really nicely there. The why gets feathered into all kinds of different parts of your systems and structures. So let's talk about the structural part of a why first. Once you know what your why is, I think a vision board is very powerful. I know you can't see, but on the other side, the wall over here, I have a 4-foot round vision board. I've had that vision board for going on 12 years. I redo it every single year. My vision board is a representation of all the things in my life that matter to me: business, family, health, blah, 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 blah. So that's a very visual structure, right? Because a lot of us, we're visual creatures. Many of us really need that visual stimuli. And so a vision board is phenomenal for that because your why will be on there and in there in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Then, like we said earlier at the call, the morning routine. In your morning routine, your why should be one of the pages in that binder that you hold up every morning. You look at your why, you look at your retirement plan, you look at your business budget, your personal goals, your business goals. That should be integrated into that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's some of the structural part.
Okay.
To move on from that is the interface and keeping that why present. So like any business, we should be looking at our goals, business, personal, including our why, every week, every month, every quarter, and annually when we do our annual planning. So as a business owner, when you're going through your planning every month and you're looking at how am I doing on my goals, you are also dealing with how am I doing approaching my why? Am I getting closer to that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It just depends on what everyone's why is. Some people's why.
Do whys
Yeah.
have to be? Let me just interrupt you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, please.
Because you're on a roll. But I want to just like whys can be everything from like, oh, I want to buy a Porsche to I want to change the world.
I'm going to give feedback on that. Maybe. This is my belief structure. My belief structure and how I teach this is there's 3 kinds of whys that can exist. I don't think all whys are created equal, in other words. To me, heart-based motivation, like a heart-based why, like I want to make enough money to put braces on my kid.
Mm-hmm.
I want to, make enough money where I can buy my first home. I think that kind of why that's really heartfelt and integrous has the most staying power.
Okay.
Then there's fear-based motivation, which is nothing wrong with that. That happens to most of us. Like, I have to make enough money this month to pay my rent. That is fear-based motivation. Again, nothing wrong with that. It is obviously not something we want to use for the rest of our careers, right? That's challenging. And then there's ego-based motivation. I want to go buy the Porsche. Listen, buying the Porsche could also be a different kind of motivation depending on your financial situation and what's going on. But I do see people who they want to buy something fancy and flashy. That's probably not the most financially responsible why.
Mm-hmm.
When it's an ego-based why, it has the least staying power.
Yeah.
Meaning when rubber meets road and life is tough, ego-based motivation gets blown away.
Right.
Heartfelt motivation is what pulls you through the tough times the best.
That's number 1. And then number 2 would probably be fear-based, I think.
Yeah, those are equal, right? Fear-based motivation is usually more short-term motivation.
Yeah.
Heart-based motivation is more long-term.
Do you have any exercises or questions you give people to help them determine their whys? Any like,
It's usually a reflection where I have them look at each area of life. I don't know if I can rattle them all off the top of my head, but whether it's family, relationships, health, finance, career, spirituality, looking at the different areas of life and then really determining for them, like what's that thing that really makes you emotional, that really moves you?
mm-hmm,
And you can have more than one, and they can change every so often. So
mm-hmm.
really it's spending that time reflecting, like, gosh, what's that thing that really is going to pull me forward, that's going to make the biggest difference in my life?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right. Yeah, we might have to like, we got more things to talk about, really good stuff. I mean, the next one is probably your and my favorite subject, which is wellness drives success. And that
Oh,
goes right to human performance. It goes to our conversations about supplements and peptides and
oh
NAD
yeah.
and all that stuff, exercise, diet, sleep, cold plunges, all those things to try to get our minds, body, and even spirit into optimal shape to help us perform. Because if you're working long hours, if you're putting yourself under stress, it's like a car or anything else, you got to change the oil.
You
And
got to,
so,
yeah.
and so talk to me about that and tell me like some of the exciting things you're seeing in health and wellness and some of the things you're getting your clients to focus on.
Oh man, such a big conversation, right? So like I
Yeah.
said earlier, I mean, I used to own one of the largest natural medicine concierge medical clinics in the country, and I sold it in the middle of COVID. So back
You were
in
one of the first, by the way, to do that, weren't you? Like, I mean, drips
it
and
was
vitamin
pop
bags. You were like one of the first
it was
ones.
on the upswing in
Yeah.
San Diego, where I was based. um there were some smaller clinics that were growing, and it was starting to become a thing. And I've always been around health and well-being my whole life, and didn't quite have the scholasticness to go to college to be a doctor, but I've always loved how the body functions. I used to be an athlete, and yeah, I just think that human performance as an entrepreneur, if the body isn't working super well, the mind isn't working super well. I mean, how great are you going to be at driving a business working 14 hours a day? Because let's be honest, being an entrepreneur, especially in the early stages of anyone's career, you're working a half day. You're working at least 12 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
if not 14 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still work 12 hours a day because I love what I do. But if your brain is foggy and mushy, and your body is just not working great, and it's sluggish and heavy, and you don't have the energy,
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to go crank and grind and grow?
Right.
If you look at I love bringing this up. Ivan Estrada, y'all know he's a longtime friend and client. He's super healthy. He's on all the things. He works out, and his mind, his nutrition, his body is so important to him. And the guy has an energy of a 12-year-old. Like the guy is just bouncing.
Right.
I mean, look at you. Geez, you have more energy than I do.
Yeah.
I mean, taking good care of the mind and the body, it gives you a zest.
It does. It does. And there's so many things you can do right now. There's so many conversations around longevity and health and wellness and so many things you can do and really, really operate at the highest levels.
And it doesn't
Um,
have to cost you a ton of money either. I mean, again, as you start to make more money in your career, you can invest in other things and peptides and all things. But I mean, just getting amazing sleep, learning how to meditate to get your mind right, get on some basic supplements, eat real good food, exercise consistently, especially as an entrepreneur. I tell my clients, exercise is not about, it's not an option.
mm-hmm.
Your body is holding on to stress.
Right.
If you don't exercise, that stress is going to stay in there, cause damage. You need to get that out. So exercise is a mandatory object for any entrepreneur.
I'm going to give somebody that's really good, but I'm going to give you another tip on that. That is when you're tired is when you should exercise. It's like so many people will be too tired to exercise, and that's absolutely when you should, because it somehow energizes you and builds your stamina up. So
Oh yeah.
whenever I'm like driving by the gym and I just want to keep driving, that's when I pull in.
Yep.
That's when I pull in. All right. All right. So back to biz. Tracking these key trends. Let's just focus on agents for the moment, because this is a big subject, obviously, and businesses have different trends to track. What key trends, what key KPIs maybe we should talk about a little bit in this because it's the same thing. What should we measure and monitor? What should we study? What should we be looking at as real estate agents?
Oh, love this question. What should we track? Well, when you're building out your dashboard, silo it based on different departments of your business. So finance, what are some KPIs in finance you want to track, right? In marketing, I think marketing is the 800-pound gorilla here. You have so many KPIs to track in marketing. There's a couple I really want to hone in on in this conversation. And the first one is lead sources. I would say about 90-ish% of the agents that I've interacted with do not know this. They do not know what their lead sources are, meaning they don't know how many leads they need per month. And they specifically don't know where they want each lead to come from. They don't know what their lead sources are. I want this many leads from this source, this many from this source, this many from this source. Hardly anyone has figured that out for themselves. So you must track your lead sources and how many leads you're getting from different sources. Some people are like, well, why? How are you going to know if your marketing plan's working? Your marketing plan, everyone, is designed to bring in the volume of leads you need from the sources that you need them to come in from. So if you don't track your lead sources, that means you're not tracking the effectiveness of a marketing plan, which means you're pretty much guessing. So I think that's one thing. The next is real specific KPIs inside of the marketing plan. Open rate of your newsletter, unsubscribe rate. Your phone calls. Everyone should be calling their database every 90 days. You should be tracking how many leads you're getting from your A's, your B's, your business alliances. I think a lot of people don't even know what business alliances are. Business alliances are your B2B relationships, your CPAs, wealth managers, divorce attorneys, family law attorneys, architects, interior designers, wealth managers, family offices. I can go on and on. Most people do not know how many business alliances they have. They don't know how many they're supposed to have. You're supposed to have between 20 and 30. Mm-hmm. And they're not tracking, are my business relationships producing leads? For most agents, I can say this strongly just because I do track this with all my clients. Most people I meet, their business alliances are producing very little, if anything. So I think tracking all of your email marketing, tracking all your social media KPIs, tracking your hard mail if you're doing any hard mail, tracking events and what comes out of your events if you're doing any events, which you should be. All of these segments of marketing have to have KPIs that are being managed.
I love it. I love it. Well, this has been really exciting. I want to finish on one last topic because I know it's a big one for you, and we can wrap it up with this, and that is branding. I know you're a big proponent of branding and knowing your brand and putting your brand out there. What are your thoughts on that? Give us a rundown on branding.
Branding's an awesome conversation, right? Because all the brands that we wear or we have has permeated our lives in some way. For small business owners, I think a lot of small business owners don't think branding applies to them yet because they're not big enough, or maybe they just don't know. The place that you want to start when you're doing branding, a simple place to start because it affects all of your marketing, is brand pillars. A business should have somewhere between 3 and 6 brand pillars. Your brand pillars make up what your brand stands for in the world. I'll give you some examples. So if you're in real estate will be one of your brand pillars because it's your industry. Community could be a really great brand pillar. Interior design and architecture can be a brand pillar. Lifestyle is a very broad brushstroke, but it's a brand pillar. So lifestyle could be like food and restaurants. One of the brand pillars I force upon all my clients is intelligence and capability. Here's why. There's so many real estate agents in the world. If you're looking to get a high-end client, which most agents are, that customer base, that target market, if you will, is looking for the smartest, most capable agent that they can find. So if you're not representing your brand as I'm one of the smartest, most capable agents in the marketplace, you're going to get looked past by most really successful real estate people that are looking to hire an agent.
Mm-hmm.
And when you bring all that together, you have what's called a sticky brand. And again, I'm just being very truthful and very blunt here. So sorry if I ruffle some feathers, but I've, coached thousands and thousands and thousands of agents over my time. And I obviously follow a lot of y'all. Most huge amount of the agents that I see on social, it basically is a gym selfie and an open house. And that is such a monochromatic brand. It's not interesting. And you may know the statistic better than I. The last time I heard was the average person buys 3 to 4 homes in a lifetime. Meaning you posting about an open house doesn't apply to my brain. So my brain is going to dismiss your social. It's not going to engage in it because it doesn't apply to me.
Mm-hmm.
Most real estate brands are so flat and the information is salesy. You're trying to sell to people. You can't do that. People need rich, deep, sticky content. And your brand pillars give way to that content strategy. When I see businesses, my clients anyway, that change their strategy and have brand pillars, their engagement goes up. Their followers go up. There's a richness to their social. There's a richness to their email marketing, their hard mail. These brand pillars should permeate every part of your marketing plan.
I love it. I love it. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for being on The Core Truth. I sure got a lot out of it, and I'm really looking forward to our coaching call Friday at 7 a.m. Gave me a ton of ideas to talk to you about today. So I hope everyone else had that same result or effect from this conversation, because, man, I think if it didn't, you got to be brain dead or not very disciplined or motivated or whatever, because boy, it should have really gotten you fired up. Anyway, Aaron, it's always great talking to you. Thank you so much for spending this time on The Core Truth with me. Thank you. And we will be back for another great Core Truth.